In previous chapters, we used data sets to calculate statistics and make graphs so that we can analyze our data. Now we're going to take a step back and we're going to look at where the data comes from and how we get good data. We're going to start in chapter 8 with sampling. So a good sample is a reflection of the population, or in statistics, the word that we use for that is that it's representative of the population. The population is the entire group of individuals or objects about which we want information. So these are all the people or things that we are interested in learning something about them. And the sample is the part of the population that we actually get the data from or we collect information from. So we use that sample to draw conclusions about the entire population. So one way of thinking about this is that a sample is a lot like when you take a spoonful of soup out of the pot to taste it and make sure that it's got enough salt and spices and everything else. You're going to assume that that one spoonful that you took and sampled is representative of what the entire pot of soup is going to taste like. So that's kind of the idea behind that representative sample. All right, so you have 5 examples on your notes, and I'd love for you to go ahead and pause the video and see if you can identify the sample and the population in each of these. All right, so hopefully you gave those a try. Let's go through them. So the first one is a survey of 1,353 American households found that 18% of the households own a computer. So the sample is usually the easiest one to find because it has to be pretty much stated within the problem. And so the sample here is the 1,353 American households. And then a best guess at the population here is just all American households. We don't have a whole lot of information other than just what's written here. So that would be the best we could probably do with that. Now there is another number here, and that's that 18%, and that 18% is actually a statistic. So remember, a statistic is something that's calculated from a sample. So they asked these 1,353 people in the sample something, and then that result is a statistic. All right, concerns about this. I think the biggest concern for me is 18% sounds really low. So if I was looking at this research, one of the things I would look at is what year was this research done in? Right, the next one, an archaeological dig turns up large numbers of pottery shards, broken stone implements, and other artifacts. Students working on the project classify each artifact and assign it a number. The counts in different categories are important for understanding the site, so the project director chooses 2% of the artifacts at random and checks the students' work. All right, so our sample here is that 2% of the artifacts, and then my population would be all of the artifacts that are at this dig site. And then as far as if there were any concerns, I actually wouldn't have any concerns here. I'm especially happy to see that it said that those artifacts were chosen at random. So a random sample is a really good way of getting a representative sample. Right, the third one, a recent survey of 2,625 elementary school children found that 28% of the children could be classified obese. So our sample is what's stated in the problem, the 2,625 elementary school kids. That 28%, that's also a statistic because that's calculated from our sample. And then my population is just going to have to be all elementary school children. I don't even know that I could narrow it down to a country based on the information provided here. Okay, and so obviously that would be a little bit concerning. I think different countries might have different obesity rates, maybe, maybe not, but we wouldn't know that unless we kind of dig down on this a little bit further. So that would be a concern I have just kind of reading that. An agency wants to know the opinions of Florida residents on the construction of a new road, so they survey 800 Florida residents. So those 800 Florida residents are going to be your sample, and that makes your population all Florida residents. I guess my biggest concern here is this new road? We probably want to survey people that maybe live closer to the road than just at random somewhere in the state of Florida. So that could be a little bit of a concern. And then the last one, the average weight of every 6th person entering the mall within a 3-hour period was 146 pounds. So this one is a little bit harder maybe to figure out what the sample is, but the sample is going to be that every 6th person, assuming that they got information from all of those people. geometry. And that's, we're going to look at that in just a little bit. It's what's known as a systematic sample. So it's actually a good way of getting data is by counting off on a certain number. And then that 146 is also going to be a statistic because that's calculated from our sample. All right, come back in the next video and we're going to talk a little bit more and drill down on how you really get that sample from the population.